I'm Ashton from Blockwest Capital for Investment Pitch Media, and today on the Crypto Coin Show, we have Bob Reid, co-founder and CEO of Everest, back on the show with us. Bob, it's a pleasure to see you again, and I'm excited to dive into Everest and all things identity and the crypto economy and wallets. It's been about 2 years since you've been back on the show, and I'm sure a lot has happened.
Yeah, we've been busy. We'll call it building through a bear market, right? So I guess to update everyone, some of the bigger highlights, we took our identity infrastructure, spun that out to a nonprofit where it's called The Foundation. If you go to foundationnetwork.org, we did that just to give everybody a free biometric identity and wallet and make it distributed and decentralized so that nobody, including me, CIA, NSA, Elon Musk, nobody can see it, right? The other few things we've done since then is we did take Everest and get it licensed. So we're grandfathered into MiCA, right? So we have a global financial platform. So when you want to take that free identity and wallet, you can actually go, hey, now I want to buy, trade, sell. I want to send remittances. I want to do all this. So those are connected in a relationship, but very different organizations.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Everest is a fascinating platform as like a global financial ecosystem where I feel like you can do so much. You know, there's wallets and there's exchanges and there's other little crypto services. I feel like you guys have sort of covered all bases, and also with the regulation and the licenses behind it, you guys have done so much. I feel like more than anybody else. Can you just talk about all the steps that you had to do to sort of get all of these pieces into one platform?
Well, it's going back 5 years to the beginning of the underlying premise was centralized systems were brittle and decaying and going to fail, right? And I say that all banks, governments, enterprise. And so if you want to rebuild it all, you really need to start at the base level, which is identity, right? Let's assume blockchain and crypto become the de facto standard of how everyone operates over the coming decades. If you do that, you need to have, like all societies, a human and unique identity. A little bit like what India did with Aadhaar, what Estonia has done with e-Estonia. You have to be human and unique, and that didn't exist in the blockchain or crypto world. And we needed it to be user-owned. Like, let's be honest. Like, I'm tired of having Google, Facebook, Amazon, everyone monetize my data. Like, that sucks. It's not right. It's a legacy of Web 2.0. So we started with that, right? It was like, so human and unique attached to a wallet. We actually have a patent on that. You really use your biometrics to verify, like as opposed to WorldCoin where you just do it at registration. And then after that, create the wallet. Then we have our own permissioned chain that accesses permissionless change. So if you needed to do dollars, euros, or even coming up from us in Q3, Q4 is going to be tokenized stocks. Like, we built a whole financial stack on top of that.
Wow, that's awesome to hear. And you mentioned there about different currencies and how identity is crucial, and also about like Estonia and sort of these platforms that are countries that are building onto blockchain platforms. I think that's very important for some of these countries to be more innovative. With Everest, it's hard to be a global platform with all these different countries having different regulations and different stages of the innovation of moving towards having neobanks and digital global banking. Are you guys actually catered to the entire world, or how did you sort of prioritize where do we go first and where's the innovation happening and how can we get early traction?
It's a really good question. So out of the 400 or so companies that came to Malta in 2018 when they were Blockchain Island, 10 of us ended up getting a license, right? That is, everyone thought, great, Blockchain Island, it'll be fun. And it is. It's a lovely place. It's like one of my favorite places in the world now. But the regulators are deadly serious, part of EU, and you had to be real. And so we got lucky with an innovative regulator that actually wanted to really move things forward for people. So again, one of the 10 that showed up actually got licensed. There's only 2 of us, I think, that are actually kind of retail focused, which is crypto.com and us. What we did that's really unique that they liked was we were doing biometrics and user-owned biometrics, so that people can be, until they do financial transaction, you can have a completely anonymous private identity, just like your normal life. And when you transact something that's a regulated transaction, you share just the bare minimum that's legally required. Like, here's my name and my address. You don't get to see my gender and my age, for example, stuff like that. So like we were able to granularly share just a little bit to be compliant. And by the way, when you're sharing stuff on Twitter, for example, no data, totally anonymous, totally private. Right? So, look, to answer your question more broadly of global reach, like we all kind of grew up of like, we all wanted Swiss bank accounts, right? Sort of the myth, right? But those are hard, and you have to go off Swift, and it's like you can't go buy your groceries with that because it's too far, it takes too long, too expensive. Well, blockchain made all time and distance and price disappear. So really, we operate what looks like a global credit union. The users own most of the network, and they can access a European-based neobank crypto credit union from anywhere in the world.
That's really cool. And on the identity part, as you said, sort of like it all starts with identity, and that's part of the foundation. I feel like it's a very hot topic in the news right now, and maybe even controversial with the launch of the WorldCoin and the orbs they have scanning your eye for a few dollars of crypto. And a lot of people saying, hell no, I'm not going to do that. I'm sort of against, I don't know if it's just the thesis of it overall or the fact of who owns WorldCoin and Altman and these guys. But I'm curious on your take on their approach and the consensus around the industry and how they seem to be rejecting the idea of actually using the platform.
Look, I think the crypto world has been correct. I was actually heartened to see that they did the analysis, and I'll give you a little background. Like one of the founders of WorldCoin came to me about 3 years ago and asked, how did you do Everest on any camera? Because that's hard, right? And we patented this, and I was like, look, if you don't do it the way we did it, you'll end up with proprietary hardware. With proprietary hardware means you don't do verification on login. Means you own the biometrics or the biometric hashes. It means you don't reach everybody, right? And you end up with, and you have privacy and security issues just out the wazoo. Like that orb has a template. You take raw biometrics, the template creates a hash, and that hash goes into the centralized database. So as soon as that template gets exposed to the outside world and that centralized database gets hacked, those two things, we're at Equifax again, we're at Home Depot, we're at every hack that's ever happened, like all those identities are compromised. So it was like, for me, WorldCoin it's a little bit like Libra. I love the idea, it's just the execution on it creates a public safety hazard. I mean, it's just that simple. But the idea behind it is honestly wherever it started. They've just executed what I think is not a safe way to go about it.
Yeah, that's a great point, Bob, and especially people that have been in blockchain for a while, they're very particular about obviously owning their own financial assets, but their personal data, and having to give up your personal data to different platforms. You really have to be particular about where it's being stored, because it's so easy for some hackers to hack it, and then all of a sudden there's identity fraud going on. I know very well, as having a lot of people on these shows that are founders and just all in on blockchain that have been susceptible to identity fraud, SIM swap hacks, all of these different ways of stealing people's passports and driver's licenses and biometrics probably, that doing it in a way that's secure and hopefully decentralized and giving minimal information, I feel like is absolutely crucial. Otherwise, people are, they're not going to use the platform if they have to give up too much information. It's almost like, these social medias all over again. We're giving you all our information, and what do we get out of it?
Couldn't agree with you more. I mean, look at like you said, I personally needed to get into a position where I could never open somebody's identity data store. Not with $5 billion or a gun to my head. I couldn't. So literally we were like, okay, we pushed it to the nonprofit, right? The foundation, right? And the governance there basically means nobody can ever open an identity store. And the only thing the user has to give up, like they take a selfie. We'll do a 2FA just in case somebody needs recourse, right? It's SMS today, it'll be probably email later. After that, you have an anonymous wallet. You can connect other wallets to it. And then where it starts getting really fun is like we just added Twitter. You can associate your Twitter account with this anonymous wallet. And you can have multiple wallets. So you can do, here's my KYC wallet, and it has some of the data there. And then here's my other wallet that's totally dark web, anon, nobody can ever see it. And you can have, all sorts of different personas with different credentials attached to different wallets.
Yeah, that's a great way to go about it. And from what I see as a comparison, people are already, for example, people that have iPhones, they already unlock their phone with their Face ID, or they download an app with their biometrics. And it's really like the same thing. You're just like, you just open up your phone and you look at it, and then you just get into the application. And I'm probably stored in a more secure way than Apple's. I'm not sure exactly how they're storing their biometrics, but if this is done in the right way, then I feel like that's sort of a status quo that people are used to. They don't have to go over to some dystopian globe at the conference center and look into it and who's on the other side of the globe. I don't know.
Yeah, no, it's a little weird how they've gone about that. Apple, by the way, they're doing it on secure storage on device, which basically means you can't take it with you, right? You need an iPhone. We did roughly the same thing of secure encrypted storage, but in infrastructure that we don't control and nobody can turn off, which is kind of the same idea. But what it does, it means if I lose my device, if I can tell you, there's about 2.5 billion smartphones in the world. That's not 8 billion, which is how many human beings there are. Which means, and we did this in Indonesia, you show up shirt on your back, scan somebody's face, and then they get access to their wallet. So you don't actually need a device. You can have a feature phone if you want, or go into a tablet. So we do reach 8 billion people, which, if you're Zuck or Elon or, somebody like that, like, this is how you needed to get there.
And I love that you give that example of Indonesia, and often I go back to, if we're looking at neobanks, mainly the people that are underbanked or unbanked in countries outside of North America would most benefit from this. And everyone's able to get, $25 smartphones that have a camera nowadays. I'm curious if that's been, one of the higher priority areas, is like helping people sort of get their financial banking sorted out in a new way in those geographic regions.
Yes. And I'll tell you something we learned along the way over the last 5 years. There's the cliche of let's bank the unbanked. Well, banking the unbanked really comes down to identity verification, right? It's compliance. So like WorldCoin and everyone can say, I want to go bank Filipinos, Indonesians, Angolans, etc. Truth is, as soon as you touch money or even crypto, if you're reading the regulations correctly, and you transfer it or do something with it, you literally must verify an identity. And so what we've had to spend lots of last couple of years doing is work with my money laundering officer and my compliance officers to go, we can take in and out $1,000 with no KYC at all. Right? It's low risk, and here's what we can do. And we can offer them buy, trade, sell. We can offer them remittances. Like I said, Q3, Q4, we're going to be able to offer them, you can buy Tesla or Apple stock, literally a token that goes to their wallet, and they get to own it in their wallet, which nobody's done. Again, remember FTX and Binance were talking about it? You were looking at two screens of here's crypto and here, but it wasn't tokenized, not a token moved to somebody's wallet. So long-winded way of saying, yeah, when you can offer most of the emerging and frontier markets, here's the NYSE and NASDAQ and CME tokenized into their wallets. That's a bunch of compliance and a bunch of work to actually get them to do it. And yeah, I think that'll be it'll be seismic in terms of its effect.
Well, I'm looking forward to that on the tokenized stocks as well, because I've heard for years that, hey, the financial market's going to be tokenized and we're going to be able to settle instantly. And, I always hear, Apple and Tesla will be the first ones. But I've yet to see, I was even just looking last week, like, are we there yet? And it seems like there was a few discussions of, FTX or another platform or two. And then it's like, well, they're gone now. And like, where's the tokenized stocks? We're still settling, +3 and these limited hours and back to traditional banking. And I'm like, I guess one day it's going to happen.
It's wild. I mean, so look, the European Union has a whole sort of test bed set up where you can issue, for example, tokens on, it's like issuing stock on chain. And that'll take a couple years. But just today, what it requires to do, here's tokenized stocks. Here's an Apple share held by a broker dealer. We're going to mint a token, send it to somebody's wallet, and we're going to accept crypto as payment. That requires broker dealer license, a VASP license, crypto custodian license, requires a permissioned chain, not a permissionless one. You can't do it on permissionless. And it requires a mountain of compliance logic around it so that it doesn't start turning into bearer bonds if you start sending it everywhere around the world. So it's a really big moat. Like it's a Herculean task to build all of that under one roof. So I think there's only one or two of us in the world that can do it right now.
Yeah, definitely. And what you said about the licensing, how only like 10 companies out of hundreds were able to get it, I feel like it's a very strenuous process. And a lot of companies and wallets and exchanges have just managed to sort of fly by without getting all of these regulatory licenses. I feel like moving forward, some of that might change. And I'm curious on your insights into sort of the future of crypto regulation, and if it's going to get more strenuous, what's that going to mean for these companies that don't have licenses? Will it be something that's required? Will it eliminate the competition and Everest will still be there? Or so what do you project moving into the years forward?
So Europe, US, Japan, Singapore, most of the majors, even Hong Kong and Dubai are doing their own regulations. They're all more or less saying, like, if you're doing crypto assets and you're doing buy, trade, sell, send, receive activities, you're going to need a license. And they're treating them mostly like they're treating fiat, right? You're going to have basic compliance, identity checks, reporting, etc. So, like, I think that's pretty well accepted for anyone that's paying attention. I'll tell you the insight that the Europeans have told me that nobody's talking about, and that is DeFi, right? And so if you get into decentralized exchanges or lending protocols where you're doing match a buyer with a seller and there's a price oracle and that smart contract is doing that is effectively a transfer agent and will be licensed. Like, period. Like that's it. And what that comes with means you have to get a license, which means you have to do full KYC above a certain threshold. You have to do ongoing monitoring. You have to do risk rating. You have to do reporting. And so there's this whole wave that's coming in 2024 and that's going to hit these guys, just like it hit centralized exchanges in 2019. Now, the good news is like, there's guys like us that can do like, we'll just take care of all that for you. If you're Sushi Swap or somebody, we'll just go like, we'll send you a zero knowledge proof of the identity. You can ride on our license. When the regulator calls and says, hey, is Derek Smith a money launderer? We'll go ahead and remove him from your policy. Like, we can do all this for them. If not, like, they're signing up for it's a couple $1 million of compliance per year.
Yeah, so that's amazing. That's amazing to hear. And I feel like decentralized exchanges are only going to increase, because it seems like, especially as we get into cross-chain, atomic swaps, things like that, people want more decentralized options just because some of the, they don't want FTX to happen again, and who knows who's actually custodying their assets, and all of a sudden it's donated to some other political party and your money's gone.
Yeah, that was, for me, again, we integrated FTX. We were one of the first, if not the first. And the thing that shocked me was it proved simultaneously that, let's call them tier 2 or tier 3 jurisdictions that don't really enforce regulations, like the Bahamas, compared to, look at FTX US and FTX Japan. Yeah. Those guys were pretty well protected. Why? Because the regulations are really good. The regulators go like, you will have those funds, you will not commingle them, et cetera. And so like, I feel good again, like about the tier 1 jurisdictions. And DeFi, look, they're going to have to adhere at some level. So, and I think that's good for everybody.
Yeah, it's interesting because for everybody that's outside of the U.S., I feel like, I'm not from the U.S., but I feel like traders in the U.S. are like, I wish I wasn't in the U.S. because then I could trade on all these other exchanges that are more lenient. And the ones in the U.S., I guess, they don't seem to have, like, it's like sort of Binance US versus Binance International. The international one has just had so much more liquidity, and there was more people trading, and the US people couldn't get access to it. But at the same time, they were actually more protected in that, their funds were more safe than the international one. So it's a trade-off.
Absolutely. Yeah, I say like, and go further down the road. Like, if you get into DeFi, there's no regulations at all, and what we see, like, even Curve, and Curve's one of the biggest and best in the whole industry, and they got hacked, right? It means like their audits, like if they were regulated and licensed, security audits would have been better, insurance would have been there, like they're like all the reporting, like that would have been really hard to have happen if you were in Europe and licensed, for example.
I want to jump topics for a second and get your take on Vitalik's thoughts on the identity, and recently he was talking about attribution addresses and how we can sort of make it easier for people on the user experience on the wallet. I feel like identity ties into that. Do you know about his insights, and are you guys in line with that?
Sure. So look, I don't know Vitalik well. We talked a whole bunch as I was building Everest early on. And I'm actually better friends with other folks in Ethereum. And so I say this with all due respect and a caveat. He's a bright guy. Identity is not his forte. It's just not. Right? Right. So I saw his analysis last week of, for example, WorldCoin, and doing, he knows human and unique are the two problems to solve. And so he came up with his analysis, and the truth is he missed some things, right? Like when he talked about, for example, in the WorldCoin case, like biometrics, well, WorldCoin only does it at registration. They don't use it as verification. One of the byproducts of that is you end up with identities being sold on the black market for WorldCoin, for example. So, I mean, I can share with you, I took Vitalik's analysis and put in what Everest looks like. Sorry for the eye chart, but you can see this where he had privacy, and then he had specialized hardware here with WorldCoin compared to the foundation, right? And Everest, our ecosystem. So privacy, like I said, we're probably the most private out there. You can not only be human unique and nobody can see it, and you can have multiple wallets and multiple personas, right? And not at gunpoint can anybody open this up. Accessibility, well, WorldCoin has 62 orbs, for example, 62. We have every single webcam, feature phone, smartphone, tablet. We can reach 8 billion people. We have the most accessible ever. Robustness of decentralization, well, we're about as decentralized as you can be. Now, again, the decentralization in identity it's not nodes sealing blocks. That's not the deal with, it's not the same thing as chain. What you're really after with decentralization is access, right? Who has access to this, to the storage of the identity? And we made it very, very decentralized, and literally, like I said, no one can open it. It's in line with what Hedera did with their governance and ENS did with their governance. Right? So it's pretty decentralized. And then security against fake people, we're doing deduplication of 1 in 8 billion. And even on Twitter, for example, I can prove I'm not an imposter, right? So we do that really well and better than, anybody else. Truth is, this social graph being security against fake people, again, that's actually not true. I know personally have been to villages where they'd go oh, we'll get 30 people to attest you're that guy. That gets game. So social graph is not a really good security against fake people.
Well, you mentioned there on the last part about Twitter, and I'm curious because Elon, I feel has this master plan now moving Twitter into X. There's supposed to be payments coming in. I feel like identity would be a part of that as well. I don't know how deep they're going to get into it, making it some kind of global financial platform. Do you think that he's going to have to implement some similar measures in what Everest has?
Yes. I mean, cut to the chase. I think Twitter has 2 problems to solve. One is bots, imposters, and that's only going to get much worse. That's an exponential, the reason he's talking about it, Zuck's talking about all these guys, they know what AI is going to do. And next year, it's going to be an avalanche. So he has to solve this without requiring a credit card, which is how he's doing it today. Right? Yeah. How do you do free? Make sure Bob's really Bob, or make sure this Twitter account is anonymously and privately just a live human being. Do that without a credit card. So he's got to solve that, and he hasn't done that yet. The second piece is he has to do the financial platform that scales globally. And so he's already registered at FinCEN, so he'll be able to do dollars and do payments. The man co-founded PayPal. He knows how to do dollar payments. When he wants to get to the rest of the world, how do you get to India? How do you get to Europe? How do you do this? How do you then tokenize fiat? How do you then tokenize, do the whole financial platform? Yeah, that's really hard. As I put it, I'm actually 27. This is what that took. This is what it does to you when you have to go build one of those things. So yeah, he'll have to rebuild a whole lot of what we've already done.
Yeah, I'm interested to see how it's going to play out and how deep crypto will be involved versus traditional payments, and how he's going to fit in all the countries in the world and not just U.S. regulations. How do you transfer to Indonesia and back? And I feel like it's going to come soon.
I do too. I say, let me share with you paradigm shift. Because Zuckerberg's looking at doing the same thing with Instagram and Threads, et cetera. He knows he has to solve roughly the same problems, right? Mm-hmm. And by the way, Reddit's not too far behind them either. And so each one of those, still taking it from a Web 2.0 perspective, they still want to own that identity database and that financial transaction platform. And the way we've positioned the foundation plus Everest is I, the user, have my Twitter account. I have my anonymous Twitter account too. Mm-hmm. I've got my Instagram and my Reddit, and I get to share different data with each of them, and it's my control on my network, right? Or on permissionless networks. And so if the world is going to evolve into a better place, putting the user at the center of all of those different social networks with their own wallets, control of their own data, and then be able to transact how they see fit, that's unequivocally a better paradigm to live in rather than having these guys repeat Web 2.0.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the world's changing really quick, and I'm glad that you guys are keeping up with it because someone's got to do it the right way.
I agree. I hope we can get more going where the users actually see the value of owning their own data and owning their own transactions and not ceding it all to Web 2.0 again.
Yeah, I feel like we're just getting an ever more increasing tipping point where people are walking towards the edge of this cliff, and when they they realize the negatives of what they've been succumbed to, then they're going to be like they'll jump ship and land on the Everest boat.
Yeah, exactly. Like I used to joke with some healthcare and government guys of like, you'll call me after you get hacked. Right? The idea of investing in that, in really good, secure, distributed, and encrypted and decentralized data storage, you won't care and want to invest in that until the day after you get hacked. And then the day after you'll call me and go like, here's a better paradigm to go forward to make sure this doesn't happen again.
Definitely. And that's why it's always important for people, especially in blockchain, but even just everybody that's using the internet to sort of, cover your bases and be privacy focused and don't have the same small bad password for every account and leaving all your personal information on the internet because it's sort of like DeFi platforms and smart contract platforms too. You never know how secure your information is until it gets hacked, and then you realize, oh man, I wasn't good enough. There's no sort of score before you get hacked on like, is my account secure or not? You just have to start to stay on top of it.
Yep, I agree 100%. Look, I think we have a really big part to play in that, and hopefully with this new Twitter campaign to get here's my verified account on Twitter. That should be the beginning.
Yeah, and can you tell me a little bit more about that? Because Twitter, it seems like the place to be right now. That I don't know what's going to happen on the payment side, but in terms of active users, they seem to be continually growing. And now you guys are running a Twitter campaign. I feel like this is the right place to do it, to bring awareness to what you guys are doing. Yeah,
so look, currently there's a bunch of people, by the way, not many you would think, that are paying Elon Twitter $8 per month for the blue check mark. And that gives you a bunch of features of how you can, segment your feeds and, write longer tweets and things like that. And there's some value there. But a lot of it is simply, are you a verified user? And so what Everest is doing is saying, here's a verified user and a wallet, and we're going to pay you to do it. We're not going to charge you. So we're giving away 10 million ID tokens to incentivize people to basically, here's your little check mark from Everest that you're a verified human being. Now, in addition to the 10 million ID tokens, we're basically a financial services platform. We're giving 10% of our fees to everyone who signs up and who follows them. So if you were to sign up, you'd get, here's 1,000 ID tokens right off the bat. Everyone who follows you, you get 10% of their fees. So if they're trading Bitcoin, ETH, sending remittances to Mexico, what have you, you get all that fee, right? You're the bank now. So it's compelling. Yeah. Yeah.
So are people signing up through seeing others on Twitter, or do you just go to the platform and, log in with your camera?
We actually set up a special site called verifiedwallet.me. So verifiedwallet.me literally gets you to, here's the campaign, you sign up. As a matter of fact, let me do a quick one for you. I've got my browser open. Right. So it already verified wallet.me takes you to here. Here you can see, if you have 1,000 followers, you get this many, all the way down. Here's sign up. Yeah. And if you want to see it real quick, I've already created an account. I've already done a connected wallet. Sign in is that.
Wow.
I enter my PIN, and by the way, here, just geek out with you.
That's pretty cool.
Right? There's my birth date and all that. And retweet. I'll post this to Twitter. So if I go to Twitter, see, I've already, that one's from the 14th, but this is what it looks like. Right? And my wallet, so if anybody comes here, you can see I'm human, I'm not a bot, not an imposter. There's my Twitter. We'll be adding Instagram and a few others coming. Anyone who signs up here, I would make the affiliate fees.
Very cool.
That's pretty straightforward.
Awesome. I'm definitely going to sign up, and I'll use your link. And I'll
use your own.
I guess you probably have a few tokens there already, but I'm definitely going to check it out because it sounds a lot better than looking into a dystopian orb at the conference center and just using your phone, and more importantly, secure, decentralized, and like encrypted.
Yeah, that's the plan.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for the insights into this, and also just your thoughts on identity right now, WorldCoin, Vitalik's thoughts, the way that we should be approaching global financial systems of the future, which are going to require identity. And it's going to come to a turning point where this is a very hot topic. It's already happening with the launch of WorldCoin, but I feel like people are going to be looking for a solution that's going the right way, and it's interesting to hear your guys' approach. So I really do appreciate the time, Bob.
I appreciate it too. Thank you, Ashton.
Awesome. Have a great day.
Thanks.